better business. This is the second part of the interview with best-selling author and business coach Sandro Forte. In this podcast, we shift gears and get insights into taking your business to the next level.
During this interview or up to now, you've given us a few gems about how to sort of get some basic building blocks in place for starting your business. What are some of your other building blocks that absolutely need to be in place in order for you to have a good foundation upon which to start your business?
Gosh, that's a very good question. Obviously lots of building blocks that I've traveled to, I think 82 countries now and shared at various conferences. I think if I could, off the top of my head, pick a few for you. I think the first one, actually, going back to when I was 21 years old and started my business with nothing, no contacts, no expertise, no real knowledge, just looking for a job to pay off my student overdraft, if I'm really honest. I think the first thing I would say is ask for help. And I know that sounds a very easy thing for me to just throw around. And I know people know that they should do it, but it's actually quite tough to ask people for help, because somehow we believe that asking for help is a sign of weakness. Now, here's what I've learned over the last 30 years, Jonathan. I've learned that every single person who is better than me at something, who is further up the ladder of life or business, got there because they asked somebody else for help. They leaned on somebody else. They used somebody else, whatever expression you want to use. The reality is you cannot achieve anything on your own. Someone else has to be involved on that process, that journey of life. So the reality is when you ask somebody for help, you are only mirroring what they have done themselves. And all the really good people, as soon as you say, Jonathan, I've just started my own business, I'm young, you need a few contacts, can you help me? The really good people immediately reflect on the things that they've gotten from other people over the years. And 99.9 times out of 100, in my experience, they will say, absolutely no problem, what can I do? And again, it goes back to what I said earlier about anxiety. We think, this person doing fantastically well, super successful, far too busy for the likes of me. But they all achieved great things using other people in some way, shape or form. So that's the first thing I would say. Don't be afraid to ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness. In fact, in many ways, it's a sign of strength. A bit like what I said earlier on about Federal Express. It was very easy for them to make an excuse and to cover up. But actually what they did was when, you know what, we made a mistake and here's how we're going to put it right. And the way they put it right way exceeded the customer's expectation. So that's one. I think on that same theme, I've always tried in life and business to surround myself with good people. So having an amazing support network, whether that's your family, whether that's, and I call it Circle of Five, Jonathan. It's a very simple concept where if I want to improve my golf game, for example, I will play with two people who are better than me. But at the same time, I don't want to feel I'm always taking from someone. I want to feel that I'm giving back to society as well. So I operate this thing called a Circle of Five, which is the basic principle of which is that I surround myself with at least two people who I want to aspire to be like, who are better than me at something. And there's two people that probably aspire to be like me, and I know who they are. So I want to take them on the journey to bettering who they are. And I want to learn from the two people above me on that ladder, but it's a 360 circle. And so as long as I always stay in the middle, I'm always going to improve, because people change positions in the circle, obviously. I'm always going to improve. At the same time, I'm always going to feel fulfilled that I'm also helping people through a journey as well. It's a bit like being philanthropic in business. Because going back to your earlier question about, do you have to be ruthless in business? The answer is, if you take the approach that I'm only going to call on other people and I'm not going to help anyone else, that's that ruthless approach that you mentioned earlier. Trouble is, you don't make too many friends. And as we know, life is a bit of a revolving door, and what goes around definitely comes around. So I think that Circle of Five is a good one. Be a really amazing networker. You don't have to sell. You don't have to do anything that is anything more than a, hi, Jonathan, nice to meet you. Let's stay in contact. Because the more people you communicate with, And as long as you focus on the communication, and that would be another very important point I would share is whatever you do, whether it's family matters or business or betterment of a sport or whatever it happens to be, don't focus on the outcome, because focusing on the outcome is what creates anxiety. Focus on the process. That's probably the best piece of advice I can give somebody in business. Focus on the things you can control and stop worrying about the things you can't. Because in my line of work, can I control picking up the telephone? Yes. Can I control dialing the number? Yes. Can I control having a conversation? Well, if somebody answers yes. What I can't necessarily control is the yes or the no. And yet what's interesting is we all focus on the yes or the no. And if it's a yes, that's a successful call. And if it's a no, it's a failed call, it's a failure. And too many people in life and business say you're either successful or you're not. And I don't see it like that. You are only unsuccessful if you don't complete the task of doing the things that you can control. So I think those would be the 3 or 4 key drivers I would think to building a really successful and sustainable business.
Let's shift gears a bit, and we're probably going to talk about something that a lot of people or a lot of listeners are going to think that we're absolutely mad when we say what we're going to say. But you cannot do business with every single person in the world. Sometimes business relationships with people break down. And at a certain point, a business owner needs to know when to walk away from that relationship when it is broken down. What are some of the telltale signs that you just cannot do business with a specific client and that you need to move on?
Yeah, good question, because that does happen in business, of course, with the best intentions, however well structured you are, and however well intended, that is going to happen. I think the first thing, I talk a lot about mindset, Jonathan. I know we haven't really talked about that in detail today, but I think one of the things that you've got to do is adopt a mindset that holds a basic philosophy. And the philosophy is, you need me more than I need you. If I've got a product or a service, or I'm a fundamentally good person, or I know I can help you better yourself financially, or in some other way in life, whatever it is I do for a job or in my business, I've got to adopt a strategy that says, you need me more than I need you. What that means is, if you don't want to do business with me for whatever reason, that's okay. And I've come across plenty of clients in the past, and I can think of 2 now, with the benefit of hindsight, I wish I'd never taken them on. And they are 2 people who every time they want something, they want it yesterday. They don't seem to appreciate that I do have other clients to serve the needs of. And in other words, they're very, very demanding, and their approach to their relationship with me is not aligned to the way I do business with 99% of my clients. So I think in those situations, and look, this is a very, very tough thing to do, particularly when you're new in business, to have the courage to walk away from something that could potentially generate revenue is a really, really difficult thing to do. But going back to what I said earlier, if you're very clear about your mission, your vision, your goals, and you ask yourself the question, is this person aligned to what I'm trying to achieve here? We've all heard of the 80-20 rule, Jonathan, haven't we? Where 80% of our revenue comes from 20% of our clients or customers. And I think that holds true today, more true today perhaps than ever. But the telltale signs are, remember, there's 2 distinct parts of the human brain. There's the emotional side, the right-hand side of our brain that drives what we want, how we view things, our emotional reaction to certain situations and events, and indeed to the process of buying a product, for example. Do I like this person? Do I trust this person? Am I confident that they're going to look after my needs? Those are all the emotional aspects of an engagement. The logical side, the left-hand side of the brain, deals with does this make sense? So I really like this person, but is what they're saying to me making sense? Now, if you are dealing in a logical way, if you're explaining the benefits to someone of what you do, and they logically, not emotionally, but if they logically are saying no, because after all, if you ask somebody a logical question, the answer is always going to be yes, because it's by definition, it's logical. So if they are betraying a sense of logic, then there is far more at play than just the no. There's something more going on. And if they are saying something to you that makes no logical sense, that is the obvious and first telltale sign. And I've seen too many business people, unfortunately, try to battle past the illogical situation that they find themselves in, where they know they should walk away, but somehow emotionally they don't want to let go. And that is a big challenge for people. So I think understanding the difference between left and right brain, left logic, right emotion, if they're not dealing with you logically, you've got to seriously think about walking away. If it's just about, well, emotionally, I'm not sure how I feel about this, that's different. And I think you can persevere with that. But as I said, success in this world, Jonathan, is not comfortable. And sometimes you have to make, successful leaders will all say success has never been comfortable. Richard Branson, a good example. Steve Jobs, a good example. They've all written books. And the theme that runs through the book is always, it's been really tough. It's been really uncomfortable. But that's why they've been successful, because they've done things in spite of that anxiety, in spite of the worry, in spite of the obstacles. So I think, in answer to your question, we're always going to have a battle against logic and emotion. But I think as long as you focus on the logical aspects, that's generally a good guide to help you decide whether you should persevere or not.
I think at the moment, a lot of people are battling with motivation. They've just gone through this pandemic. They've just possibly had a lockdown situation where their company's been forced to sort of close and not do business because of the pandemic. And they're just struggling with motivation at the moment. How do people sustain this motivation throughout sort of their life and now rebuilding or reinvigorating their business? I've been to one or two of these seminars, these motivational seminars, and all it did to me at that point in time was just empty the tank. You feel great, you feel motivated for 2 or 3 days, but then you wake up and you just feel drained. You feel motivationally drained because you've just emptied the tank. How do you sustain this motivation throughout a sustained period of time without emptying that tank? Because let's be honest, business owners need to be motivated on a daily basis without emptying that tank.
Yeah, I find it extraordinary, and I know lots of very good professional speakers around the world. I find it extraordinary that they all make lots of money turning up at conferences and motivating, inverted commas, big groups of people, but leave them after a couple of days. I mean, it's lucky for you that it took 2 or 3 days to feel like that. Most people, by the end of that day, are feeling a bit motivationally drained. And I think the reality is, I can't motivate you, Jonathan. I can't motivate anyone. What I try to do when I travel around and speak to people, and the reason I wrote my book, actually, is I'd read 150, 200 business books at that time and felt good about pretty much every one of them. Oh, I've got loads of great ideas. I can conquer the world. Everything's going to be different from now on. I'm going to achieve all my goals. And guess what? 3 months later, nothing had changed. And I think that's because motivation on one level is a great short-term boost to our confidence. It makes us feel good in the moment. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But the only form of motivation that is sustainable that you've just mentioned is self-motivation. So you have to find a way to do 2 things. The first one is you have to deal with a little voice on your shoulder. You have to, and I do honestly and fundamentally believe that I could teach, not just me, but I could teach anyone to be successful. You can learn success like you learn to swim, ride a bicycle, drive a car, walk, talk, and all the other things that you now do subconsciously. Number one, that involves training your subconscious brain in the same way that you've trained it in all those other ways before. And then you have to overlay that mindset shift with skills. So if I were to say to somebody, okay, let's do some work on changing your subconscious approach to things, to goal achievement, and we're going to overlay this with a bunch of skills. And what I'm about to show you means that by the time you've perfected this skill, Jonathan, every time you pick up the telephone, the person you call will say, yes, come and see me. Every time somebody raises an objection, you will be able to handle that objection every single time. And every time you ask somebody for an order, in whatever profession you happen to be applying that to, they will say, absolutely, I'd love to become a customer. Now, if I were to say that to you, how many phone calls would you make? The answer is as many as you could fit in 24 hours, right? The reality is that you, and I don't mean you personally, I mean us generally, the world at large generally, we don't have the skills and we don't have the right mindset. So I can't motivate you on a sustained basis if you don't have those two things. So that's why I would challenge some of these motivational speakers, because I think motivation isn't going to change very much. You found it, I found it. It just makes you feel good for a while. But, things like at the moment, yes, there are challenges, but look, Zoom is here to stay. And you've either got to embrace it and find a way of working with it, which I've managed to do successfully over the last 3 months, or you die. I mean, it's as simple as that. Now, the reality is, you can still have a face-to-face meeting with somebody on Zoom. That hasn't changed. You can still give people advice. You can still sell a product. We've been doing stuff online for long enough. Why not have online meetings? So you've either got to adapt and adopt to these changes, or pack up and go home. But to your question, I think there's two very important things here. One, train your subconscious mind, which is easy to do. And then you've got to follow through with a positive action, which is based on improving your outputs, improving your skills. And if you combine those two things together, I do not need to motivate you. You will take care of that all on your own.
Sandro, you've been an inspiration to all. You were an inspiration to me when I listened to you and got the penny to drop in my mind about wanting to start, or how to start my business. If people want to access your book and your literature about this, where can they go to?
Well, I'm really, really proud of the fact that we've just hit our 500,000 copy of the book. And every penny, every dollar, rand goes to charity. So we've helped a lot of charities over the years. It is available on Amazon. And at the moment we have a relatively small supply. So it's on special offer at the moment for a short period of time till we use up the existing supply. But it's available on Amazon, or you can just email me through my website, which is sandroforte.com. Drop me an email. I've never sought, although I was very proud of the fact that I wrote the book, I wrote it for two reasons. One, because somebody dared me to write it. Somebody just said, you haven't got it in you to write a book. And that was a bit like a red rag to a bull. But I think the other reason, Jonathan, as I've already alluded to, was I was so sick of reading books that contain lots of theory and just left me feeling empty afterwards. I just thought, well, it's a great book, but nothing's changed. So the reason I wrote the book is partly because at the end of every chapter, there's an action plan. And the idea is that you can't move on to the next chapter until you've completed the actions from the chapter you've just read about. And it's designed to take people on a journey from point A to point B, which is, after all, what we all want to do. So that's how they find the book. Pretty much any other form of communication, all the social media channels, Sandro Forte, across the board, pretty much. But I'm very happy to make copies available of the book to whoever's listening, wants a copy. We'll find a way, is what I'm saying, because ultimately it isn't just about helping charities, it's about helping people out there to achieve the things that I think everyone listening is more than capable of achieving.
Before we say goodbye, Sandro, what is the name of the book again?
Dare to be different.
Dare to be different. Sandro, thank you very much for joining me, and good luck with your business going forward.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's been great speaking to you.
Thank you. Cheers.
What are some of the key takeaways from this part of the interview? Ask for help when starting your business. If you can network effectively, you will grow your business immensely. Do not focus on the outcome of an interaction. Focus on the process. And a winning mindset is a powerful tool to have. Today's inspirational quote comes from Richard Branson, who said, "If you do not enjoy what you are doing, you are going to have a hard time doing it well and being successful."